No one could handle the triplets for a week, until the cleaning lady surprised everyone. Jennifer Parker held firmly onto the handle of her fabric bag as she walked along the tree-lined avenue of the upscale Upper East Side neighborhood in New York City. At 28 years old, she had already worked as a cleaning lady in dozens of homes, but she had never heard so many discouraging warnings about a job as this time. The employment agency had been clear about the situation at the Thompsons' house. The 4-year-old triplets had driven away 6 nannies in just 1 month. The children were described as little hurricanes, impossible to control since they lost their mother 2 years ago. The father, Michael Thompson, an always absent executive, was desperate. Jennifer stopped in front of the iron gate of the 3-story mansion. Even from outside, she could hear screams coming from inside the house. She took a deep breath, adjusted her hair tied in a ponytail, and rang the doorbell. The door was opened by a woman of about 50 years old, with a tired expression and wrinkled clothes. "You must be the new cleaning lady," said the woman, not hiding the relief in her voice. "I'm Margaret, the housekeeper. Please come in before they see you." Jennifer followed Margaret through an elegant entry hall, decorated with marble and expensive paintings. The noise grew louder with every step they took. "The children are in the living room," explained Margaret, lowering her voice. "Mr. Michael is in the office trying to work, but with this noise—" A crash followed by more screams interrupted her sentence. Margaret shook her head in discouragement. "We've tried everything. Punishments, rewards, child therapists. Nothing works. They simply don't obey anyone." Jennifer nodded, absorbing the information. During the walk to the room, she observed details of the house that told a story of unresolved grief. Family portraits were turned face down. Some shelves had empty spaces where personal items had clearly been, and a heavy silence hung over everything, broken only by the children's screams. When they reached the entrance to the living room, Jennifer saw the famous triplets for the first time. 3 identical boys with curly hair and light eyes were in the middle of an epic battle. Cushions flew through the air, books were scattered on the floor, and what seemed to have once been an elegant coffee table now served as an improvised fort. The boy who seemed to be leading the mess shouted when he saw the 2 women at the door. "We don't want another nanny. Go away," he yelled, throwing a cushion in their direction. The other 2 joined the chorus of protest, creating a deafening sound that echoed off the walls of the house. Margaret sighed deeply. "I'll get Mr. Michael," she murmured, hurrying away. Jennifer was left alone at the entrance to the room, watching the chaos before her. Instead of being intimidated or trying to interrupt immediately, she studied each child carefully. There was something in their movements, an energy that went beyond simple mischief. It was as if they were fighting against something much bigger than any adult around. A few minutes later, she heard hurried footsteps in the hallway. A tall man with broad shoulders and slightly disheveled dark hair appeared beside her. Even wearing an impeccable suit, Michael Thompson had deep dark circles and an expression of weariness that seemed to carry the weight of the world. "Sorry about this," he said, gesturing toward the room. "I'm Michael. You must be—" "Jennifer Parker," she replied, extending her hand. "The new cleaning lady." Michael hesitated for a moment, as if he wanted to correct her about something, but the scream of one of the children distracted him. "Look, Jennifer, I need to be honest with you," he said, running his hand through his hair. "The situation here is complicated. They haven't accepted any authority figure for months. If you want to give up now, I completely understand." Jennifer looked again at the children, who were continuing their private war against the adult world. Something tightened in her chest. It wasn't pity, not even simple compassion. It was recognition. "May I try a different approach?" she asked. Michael looked at her with surprise. "Different how?" "Let me stay with them for an hour, alone, no interference. I don't know if it's safe." "They won't hurt me," Jennifer said with conviction, "but they need to know I'm not here to control them." Michael hesitated, clearly torn between the desperate need for help and the fear of exposing another person to his children's destructive behavior. "1 hour," he finally agreed, "but I'll be in the office right next door. If anything happens, you call me." Jennifer nodded and waited for Michael to walk away before entering the room. The children immediately stopped shouting, looking at her with suspicion. The leader, who she assumed was the oldest of the triplets, crossed his small arms. "You're not going to be able to control us," he declared. "I don't want to control you," Jennifer replied calmly, sitting on the floor amidst the mess. The three boys exchanged confused glances. Clearly, this wasn't the reaction they expected. "My name is Jennifer," she continued, picking up one of the scattered cushions and hugging it. "And who are you?" The same boy who had spoken before hesitated, as if deciding whether he should answer or not. "I'm Ethan," he finally said. "These are my brothers, Noah and Jacob." "Ethan, Noah, and Jacob," Jennifer repeated, smiling. "Beautiful names. Do you know those are the names of angels?" Noah, who seemed to be the shyest of the three, moved a little closer. "Our mother chose them," he said quietly. The atmosphere in the room changed instantly. Ethan shot a furious look at his brother, as if he had revealed an important secret. "We don't talk about that," Ethan said stiffly. "That's all right," Jennifer replied softly. "You don't have to talk about anything you don't want to." She stayed silent for a few moments, simply sitting amidst the mess, hugging the cushion. The children watched her with growing curiosity, clearly disconcerted by her lack of urgency to fix or correct anything. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps those of us who are just starting out. Now continuing. "Do you know how to play statue?" Jennifer asked suddenly. Jacob, who had been quiet until then, nodded enthusiastically. "I do, my mother," he began, but stopped abruptly when he saw Ethan's warning look. "How about a different version?" Jennifer quickly suggested, noticing the tension. "When I say statue, you freeze exactly as you are. But when I say earthquake, you can make the biggest mess you want for 10 seconds. The eyes of all three boys lit up. The idea of official permission to make a mess was irresistible. "Can I start?" asked Ethan, his initial distrust giving way to curiosity. "Of course, 3, 2, 1, the statue." The three boys froze in place, trying not to laugh. Jennifer watched them for a few seconds before shouting, "Earthquake!" The room exploded with movement. The children ran, jumped, shouted, and laughed like never before. When the 10 seconds were up and Jennifer shouted "statue" again, they stopped instantly, breathless and smiling. From the hallway, Michael watched through the crack in the door, incredulous. He hadn't seen his children smile genuinely in months. There was something about Jennifer's approach that was completely different from anything they had ever tried. The game continued for another 20 minutes, with the children becoming more and more relaxed and open. Gradually, Jennifer began to incorporate small tasks into the game. During the statue moments, she would ask them to freeze while she adjusted a pillow or two. During the earthquake, she joined in the mess with them. When the hour ended, the room wasn't completely tidy, but there was a completely different energy in the air. The children were sitting in a circle with Jennifer, telling silly jokes and laughing. Michael entered the room, still processing the transformation he had witnessed. "How did you do that?" he asked, genuinely impressed. "They just needed to know someone understood," Jennifer replied simply. Ethan looked at his father with an expression Michael hadn't seen in a long time. It wasn't defiant or distant. It was hopeful. "Dad, can Jennifer stay?" he asked. Noah and Jacob immediately joined the request, creating a chorus of pleas that echoed through the room. Michael looked at Jennifer, who remained calm in the middle of the circle of children. "Would you like to stay?" he asked. "Not just as a cleaner. Perhaps we could talk about a more expanded role." Jennifer smiled, looking at the three hopeful little faces around her. "I would love to," she said. That night, after the children went to sleep, without the usual bedtime drama, Michael and Jennifer sat in the kitchen to talk about the practical details of the new arrangement. "They haven't connected with anyone like this in 2 years," Michael admitted, absently stirring a cup of coffee that had long gone cold. "Since Rebecca..." He didn't finish the sentence, but he didn't need to. Jennifer had noticed the signs of unresolved grief throughout the house. "Do they talk about her?" she asked gently. Michael shook his head. "Ethan forbids it. He became something of the leader of the three after she was gone, and decided it was best not to talk about their mother. The other two follow his lead." And you? The question caught Michael off guard. He looked at her with surprise, as if no one had been interested in his own feelings for a long time. I try to keep things running, he said finally. Work, home, children. There isn't much time left to process. Jennifer nodded, understanding more than he imagined. There was recognition in her eyes, as if she also carried her own ghosts. Children notice when adults aren't okay, she said softly. Sometimes they act out because it's the only way they know how to express that something is wrong in their world. Michael was silent for a long moment, absorbing her words. Do you have experience with situations like this? He asked. Jennifer hesitated, clearly debating internally how much she should share. I've been through some things, she said vaguely. I've learned that sometimes healing comes in unexpected ways. In the days that followed, the Thompson household underwent a gradual but remarkable transformation. Jennifer arrived every morning at 7:30, always with a genuine smile and a new idea to engage the children. She had created a system that worked like magic. Household chores became elaborate games. Cleaning up toys turned into a competition of who could put away the most items during one song. Making beds transformed into a space mission, where they were astronauts organizing their ships. Most importantly, she had begun to subtly introduce conversations about feelings and memories. During activities, when the children were relaxed and distracted, she asked careful questions about things they liked, places they had visited, favorite foods. Ethan still kept his barriers high when it came to talking about his mother directly, but Jennifer noticed he was starting to relax his vigilance over his younger brothers. One Thursday morning, 3 weeks after Jennifer's arrival, Noah approached her while she folded laundry in the utility room. "Jennifer, can I tell you a secret?" he whispered, glancing over his shoulder to make sure Ethan wasn't listening. "Of course, sweetheart," she replied, bending down to his level. "I still remember my mother's singing voice," he said, eyes glistening with unshed tears. "But Ethan said we had to forget because it hurt Daddy too much." Jennifer's heart tightened. She pulled Noah into a gentle embrace. "Remembering people we love is never wrong," she said calmly. "Sometimes good memories can be like a warm blanket around your heart. Do you think I can remember without making Daddy sad?" "I think your daddy would be happy knowing you keep special memories of your mother," Jennifer answered honestly. "But how about we talk to him together, when you feel ready?" Noah nodded enthusiastically, clearly relieved to have someone validate his feelings. This conversation was the first of many intimate moments Jennifer shared individually with each of the children during the following weeks. Jacob revealed he sometimes dreamed about his mother and woke up crying, but pretended everything was fine to avoid worrying anyone. Ethan, the most reserved, eventually admitted he sometimes faked being sick at school because he knew it would make his father stay home. Each revelation was like a piece of a complex emotional puzzle Jennifer was patiently assembling. She began realizing the entire family was trapped in a dysfunctional cycle of mutual protection. Each member tried to spare the others from their own pain, creating a wall of silence that only intensified everyone's suffering. During this period, Michael also began changing. He started coming home earlier, clearly interested in participating in activities Jennifer created with the children. There was a lightness in his movements that hadn't been there before, as if an invisible weight was gradually being lifted from his shoulders. One evening after the children went to sleep, he found Jennifer in the kitchen preparing lunchboxes for the next day. "Can I help?" he asked. "Of course," she smiled, handing him one of the lunchboxes. Noah likes his sandwich cut in triangles, Jacob prefers squares, and Ethan likes the crust cut off and the filling right in the middle, Michael finished smiling, just like his mother. It was the first time he'd mentioned Rebecca spontaneously since Jennifer had arrived. She looked at him with encouragement but didn't press him to continue. She was very organized about these things, he continued after a moment. Had color codes for each boy's belongings, systems for everything. I always thought it was excessive, but now you understand it was love, Jennifer completed softly. Michael nodded, eyes glistening. She'd be angry with me for letting things get to where they did, he said, his voice heavy with guilt. Or maybe she'd be proud to see how you're trying to fix things now, Jennifer suggested. They worked in silence for a few minutes, each lost in their own thoughts. "Jennifer," Michael said finally, "can I ask you a personal question?" She looked at him, slightly apprehensive. "Have you ever lost someone important?" he asked. "It's just, you seem to understand things other people can't see." Jennifer stilled for a moment, her hands pausing mid-sandwich wrapping. "I lost my father when I was 8, she said finally, "and my mother never knew how to handle our grief. She thought pretending he'd never existed would be easier for me." "And was it?" "It was terrible," Jennifer answered honestly. "I carried all these memories and feelings alone with no one to share them with. It took me years to understand that it's normal to feel longing, and that talking about the people we love is a way to keep them alive in our hearts." Michael absorbed these words, clearly processing the implications for his own situation. "The boys are lucky to have you," he eventually said. "I'm also lucky to have them," Jennifer replied, and there was a sincerity in her voice that made Michael's heart beat a little faster. There was something developing between them, a connection that went beyond their professional relationship, but both were too careful to acknowledge it openly. Meanwhile, Margaret, the housekeeper, watched these changes with mixed feelings. On one hand, she was genuinely happy to see the family healing. On the other hand, there was a growing jealousy toward the ease with which Jennifer had achieved what she had been trying to accomplish for 2 years. Margaret had been hired shortly after Rebecca's passing, and all this time she had desperately tried to be the maternal figure she believed the children needed. Every rejection, every tantrum, every night of crying had broken her heart a little more. Seeing Jennifer succeed where she had failed stirred deep insecurities about her own worth and purpose in that house. "The children like her more than me," Margaret confessed to her sister during a phone call on a Friday afternoon. "It's like I'm invisible when she's around." "Maybe it's time to look for another job," her sister suggested. "You don't have to put up with this." But Margaret couldn't imagine leaving the boys. Despite everything, she loved them as if they were her own grandchildren. The idea of abandoning them when they were finally beginning to heal felt wrong, even if it meant accepting a secondary role in their lives. She decided she needed to talk to Jennifer to better understand how she had managed to connect so deeply with the children. One morning, while Jennifer was playing with the triplets in the garden, Margaret approached hesitantly. "Jennifer, do you have a minute?" she asked. "Of course, Margaret," Jennifer replied, asking the children to keep playing while she stepped a few feet away. "I wanted to ask you, how do you do it?" Margaret said, struggling to find the right words. "I tried so hard to connect with these children, and you came here, and in just a few weeks—" "Margaret," Jennifer gently interrupted her, "you have been fundamental to this family. They trust you in ways they might not even realize. But they never responded to me the way they respond to you." Jennifer reflected carefully before answering. "Sometimes children respond differently to different people," she said. "That doesn't mean one connection is more important than the other. Ethan told me yesterday that when he has nightmares, it's your name he calls, not mine." Margaret looked at her in surprise. "He never told me that." "Because to him, you are the safe person," Jennifer explained. "The person who has always been there. I'm the novelty, the fun. But you are the constancy, the security. That is far more important than you realize." Tears welled up in Margaret's eyes. She hadn't realized the crucial role she played in the children's lives because she was too focused on what she thought it should be, rather than valuing what it actually was. "Thank you," she whispered. "I needed to hear that." "How about we work together?" Jennifer suggested. "Each with our strengths. I think together we can give these children everything they need." This conversation marked the beginning of a genuine partnership between the two women. Margaret stopped seeing Jennifer as a threat and began to see her as an ally in the mission of caring for the Thompson family. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. Meanwhile, the children continued to flourish under the combined care of Jennifer and Margaret. The tantrum episodes became increasingly rare, replaced by conversations and negotiations. The house, which once echoed with screams and crying, now resonated with laughter and play. But it was on a Sunday afternoon, almost 2 months after Jennifer's arrival, that the most significant turning point occurred. The children were playing in the backyard when a ball landed on the gazebo roof. Ethan, always the leader, decided he could climb up to retrieve it. Before any adult realized what was happening, he had climbed onto the fence and was balancing precariously on the edge of the roof. "Ethan!" shouted Michael, who had come out to check on the children. "Don't move!" The panic in his father's voice made Ethan hesitate, and in that moment of distraction he lost his balance. The boy fell from the roof, landing hard in the flower bed below. The garden filled with screams. Noah and Jacob ran to their brother, who lay motionless among the roses. Michael arrived first, closely followed by Jennifer and Margaret. Ethan was conscious, but clearly in pain. His left leg was bent at an odd angle, and there were cuts from the rose thorns on his arms. "Don't move, son," Michael said, trying to stay calm as he grabbed his phone to call an ambulance. "Everything will be okay." But Ethan couldn't stop crying, and it wasn't just from the physical pain. There was something deeper in his tears, as if the accident had broken an emotional dam he had carefully built. "I want my mum," he sobbed. "I want my mum to come help me." The words struck everyone present like lightning. Noah and Jacob immediately began to cry too, as if Ethan's admission had given them permission to express their own repressed feelings. "I want Mommy too," cried Noah. "Why won't she come back?" asked Jacob between sobs. Michael knelt beside his sons, tears streaming down his own face. For 2 years he had tried to be strong, keep everything together, pretend he could fill the void left by Rebecca. But in that moment, confronted with his children's raw pain, all his defenses crumbled. "She can't come back, my darlings," he said, his voice broken. "Mommy had to go to a place very far away, from which you can't return." "But why?" asked Ethan, still crying. "Why did she leave us?" "She didn't want to go," Michael explained, pulling all 3 boys into a careful hug, mindful of Ethan's injured leg. "She loved you more than anything in the world. But sometimes bad things happen, even when we don't want them to." Jennifer and Margaret watched the scene with broken hearts, knowing the family was finally facing the pain they had avoided for so long. It was devastating and healing at the same time. The ambulance arrived 15 minutes later, and Ethan was taken to the hospital for tests. Fortunately, his leg was only sprained, not broken, and the cuts were superficial. But the real wound that had been exposed that afternoon couldn't be healed with a cast or stitches. That night, after Ethan was comfortably settled in his bed with his leg bandaged, the entire family gathered in the living room. It was the first time they had sat together just to talk about Rebecca. "Would you like to see some pictures of Mommy?" Michael asked hesitantly. 3 little heads nodded eagerly. Michael went to his office and came back with a box that had been stored away for 2 years. Inside were hundreds of photographs, from the wedding to the boys' early years. "Look here," said Michael, pulling out a picture of Rebecca pregnant. "This is you all still in Mommy's belly. She talked to you every day." "What did she say?" asked Noah, fascinated. "She told you about all the adventures you were going to have together." Michael smiled, the pain mixed with joy in the memory. "She planned to teach you how to ride bikes, fly kites, cook her favorite sweets." "Can we learn those things even without her?" asked Jacob. Michael looked at Jennifer, who was sitting discreetly in a nearby armchair. There was something in his eyes, a silent question he was asking. "I think so," he said. "I think Mommy would be happy if we learned those things and remembered her while doing them." "Can Jennifer teach us?" Ethan suddenly asked. All eyes turned to her. Jennifer felt the weight of the trust being placed in her, and at the same time, the responsibility that it represented. "I would love to teach you everything I can," she said softly. "But the most important things you already know. Your mother taught you to love, to care for each other, to be brave. Those lessons are here." She touched each boy's chest. "Inside you." That night, for the first time in 2 years, the children fell asleep talking about their mother with smiles on their faces instead of tears. And for the first time since Rebecca was gone, Michael felt that perhaps he could be happy again. In the weeks that followed the accident, the dynamic of the house changed completely. Conversations about Rebecca became natural and frequent. The children asked questions, shared memories, and sometimes cried, but it was a healthy cry, of processing, not of repressed despair. Jennifer found herself increasingly integrated into the family's life. She wasn't just an employee, she had become an essential part of the home's emotional structure. And with that integration came a realization she had tried to ignore for months. She was falling in love with Michael. It was impossible not to fall for a man who loved his children so deeply, who fought every day to be a better father, who had carried alone the weight of 3 broken hearts besides his own. But Jennifer was terrified by the intensity of her feelings. She had never allowed herself to imagine a life like this. Growing up in difficult circumstances, she had always worked too hard just to survive to dream about perfect families and happy endings. The idea that she might not only be part of this family, but be loved by it seemed too good to be true. Michael, for his part, was going through a similar internal struggle. He had felt guilty for months for noticing how attracted he was to Jennifer. He felt as if he were betraying Rebecca's memory by letting another woman touch his heart. But by talking with the children about their mother, hearing his own words about how Rebecca wanted them to be happy, he began to understand that loving again was not a betrayal. It was an honor to the capacity for deep love that Rebecca had taught him. The unspoken tension between Jennifer and Michael was becoming palpable. Margaret had certainly noticed, as had the children, who, despite their young age, were surprisingly perceptive about adult emotions. It was Ethan who finally decided to do something about the situation. "Dad," he said one Saturday morning over breakfast, "why don't you ask Jennifer to be our new mom?" Michael nearly choked on his coffee. "Ethan, that's not how it works." "But we like her," Noah joined the conversation. "And you like her too. I can see how you look at her. And she looks at you the same way," added Jacob, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. Michael looked around the table, seeing 3 hopeful faces staring back at him. Across the kitchen, Jennifer had stopped washing the dishes and was clearly listening to the conversation, even while pretending to be busy. "It's complicated," Michael finally said. "Why is it complicated?" asked Ethan. "Do you love her?" The direct question from a 4-year-old cut through all the rationalizations and fears Michael had built up. "Yes," he said softly. "I love her." Jennifer dropped a plate in the sink. The noise echoed through the kitchen, and when she turned around, her cheeks were flushed and her eyes were shining. "Then marry her," said Noah, as if it were the simplest solution in the world. "It's not that simple, sweetheart," Michael tried to explain. "Jennifer might not feel the same way about me." "Jennifer," Ethan turned to her directly, "do you love my dad?" The silence that followed was heavy with tension and hope. Jennifer looked at Michael, then at the 3 children who had become so important to her, and finally found the courage to be honest. "Yes," she said simply, "I love you. All of you." The children erupted in celebration, as if they had received the best birthday present in the world. Michael slowly rose from the table and walked over to where Jennifer was standing, his eyes never leaving hers. "Are you sure?" he asked gently. "Because once we start this, there's no turning back. These 3 little monsters will belong to you forever." "I wouldn't have it any other way," Jennifer replied, smiles blooming on her face. Michael kissed her softly, while the children made pretend disgusted noises and then burst into giggles. It was a perfect moment, full of love and promises for the future. But like every good story, this one still had a few twists ahead. 3 weeks after the mutual declaration of love, when the family was beginning to adjust to the new relationship dynamic, a figure from the past appeared unexpectedly. It was an ordinary Tuesday when the doorbell rang. Margaret went to answer it and returned with a worried expression. "Mr. Michael," she said hesitantly, "there's a lady here who says she's Mrs. Rebecca's mother." Michael's blood ran cold. Mrs. Eleanor, Rebecca's mother, had moved to England shortly after her daughter's funeral. She blamed Michael for the circumstances that led to Rebecca's passing and had made it clear she wanted no further contact with him or the grandchildren. "What does she want?" asked Michael, his voice tense. "She said she came to get the boys," Margaret replied quietly. The statement fell over the house like a bomb. Jennifer, who was helping the children with an art project in the living room, felt her stomach turn. The children, sensing the change in the atmosphere, stopped what they were doing and looked at the adults with concern. "Who is it, Dad?" asked Ethan. Michael took a deep breath, trying to remain calm for the children. "It's Grandma Eleanor," he said. "Your mum's mother." The children's faces lit up. They had few memories of their grandmother, but they remembered she had been affectionate with them before their mother's passing. "Can she come in?" asked Noah excitedly. Michael exchanged a worried look with Jennifer before nodding to Margaret. "You can bring her to the living room." Eleanor Williams was an imposing woman in her 70s, perfectly styled grey hair, expensive clothes, and a posture that radiated authority. When she entered the room, her eyes immediately fixed on the children, and for a moment her stern expression softened. "My little grandchildren," she murmured, opening her arms. The children ran to her, clearly happy to see a piece of their mother, who had returned to their lives. Eleanor hugged them with genuine tenderness, but when her eyes met Michael's over the children's heads, the ice returned. "Michael," she said coldly. "Eleanor," he replied, equally formal. "We weren't expecting—" "Obviously," she said, her eyes now fixed on Jennifer with clear disapproval. "I see you didn't waste any time replacing my daughter." The accusation cut through the air like a blade. The children, confused by the sudden tension, looked between the adults without understanding what was happening. "That's not it," Michael began, but Eleanor interrupted him. "Children, why don't you go play outside?" she suggested with false sweetness. "The adults need to talk." "We can stay," said Ethan, always protective. "This is our home." "And Jennifer isn't a replacement," added Noah, with the brutal honesty of children. "She's different from Mommy, but we love her too." Eleanor looked at the children with surprise, clearly not expecting resistance from them. "Go play," Michael said softly to his children. "We'll talk here." Reluctantly, the children left, but Jennifer could see Ethan peeking through the door, clearly worried. "So," Eleanor said as soon as they were alone. "How dare you?" "How dare I what, Eleanor?" "Bring a stranger into my grandchildren's lives, allow her to take my daughter's place." "No one is taking Patricia's place," Jennifer spoke for the first time, her voice calm but firm. "The children love the memory of their mother. We talk about her every day." Eleanor turned to her with disdain. "And who exactly are you? An opportunist who saw a chance to better herself?" "Eleanor!" Michael stood up, his patience wearing thin. "You have no right to speak to Jennifer like that." "I have every right," Eleanor retorted. "I am these children's grandmother, and I won't stand by while you hand my grandchildren over to a complete stranger." "Jennifer is not a stranger," Michael said firmly. "She has been taking care of these children, loving them, when you decided to disappear from their lives." "I couldn't stay," Eleanor replied, her voice cracking slightly. "Seeing these children every day, being reminded of my Patricia, it was too painful." "And do you think it wasn't painful for them?" Jennifer asked softly. "Losing their mother and then their grandmother?" Eleanor looked at her angrily, but there were tears in her eyes. "I've come to take my grandchildren," she said. "In England, they will get a proper education far from questionable influences." "You can't take these children," Michael said, his voice low but full of determination. "They are my children. I am their grandmother, and I have the resources to prove this environment is not suitable for children." The threat hung in the air. Eleanor had clearly consulted lawyers before coming. "What environment?" asked Jennifer. "A home full of love, where the children are thriving, where they can talk about their mother without fear. A home where the father allows a maid to pose as a maternal figure," Eleanor shot back. "I am not just a maid anymore," Jennifer replied calmly, "and you know that. Otherwise you wouldn't feel so threatened." The comment hit its mark. Eleanor fell silent for a moment, clearly wrestling with conflicting emotions. "My daughter is going through this," she whispered finally. "She entrusted these children to me, and I abandoned them. Now a stranger is raising her children." "Patricia entrusted these children to their father," Michael said gently, his anger giving way to compassion. "And Jennifer isn't replacing Patricia. She is helping to honor her memory." "How?" Eleanor asked, tears now streaming freely down her face. "Teaching the children that it's possible to love someone who's gone and still open your heart to new love," Jennifer answered, showing them that family can grow without diminishing what already existed. At that moment, Ethan appeared at the door, unable to stay away any longer. "Grandma," he said, running to Eleanor, "please don't take us away. We like living here with Daddy and Jennifer." Noah and Jacob appeared behind him, clearly having heard part of the conversation. "Jennifer taught us how to remember Mommy without getting sad," Noah explained, "and Daddy doesn't cry in his office anymore when he thinks we're not watching." Eleanor looked at her grandchildren, seeing something in them she hadn't noticed before. They were different from the traumatized children she had left 2 years ago. There was a light in their eyes, a confidence in their movements that she didn't remember seeing since before their mother's passing. "Are you happy here?" she asked, her voice small. The 3 children nodded vigorously. "We could be happier if you stayed too," Ethan said with a child's wisdom. "You could tell us stories about Mommy that we don't know. And we could teach you the new games Jennifer invented," added Jacob. Eleanor looked around the room, truly seeing it for the first time. There were pictures of Rebecca everywhere, not hidden away as she had imagined. There were children's drawings stuck on the refrigerator, showing a family of 5, clearly Michael, the 3 children, and Jennifer. But in several drawings, there was also a 6th figure, a woman with a halo identified as Mommy in Heaven. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out now. Continuing. "They still remember her," murmured Eleanor, touching a photo of Rebecca with the boys as babies. "Every day," confirmed Jennifer. "Ethan has her eyes, Noah has her smile, Jacob has her way of tilting his head when he's thinking. How could we forget?" Eleanor sat down heavily on the sofa, the weight of 2 years of guilt and pain finally overwhelming her. "I thought it would be easier to pretend none of this existed," she admitted. "But you didn't disappear. You grew, changed, created new memories that I'm not part of. But you can be part of future memories," Michael suggested gently. "If you want." "How? Can you forgive me for abandoning these children when they needed me most?" "Grandma," Ethan approached and held her hand, "everyone makes mistakes. Jennifer taught us that what matters is trying to make things right afterward." The barriers Eleanor had built around her heart completely crumbled. She pulled all 3 grandchildren into a tight hug, crying openly for the first time since her daughter's funeral. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm sorry for leaving you." "Can you stay now?" asked Noah hopefully. Eleanor looked at Michael and Jennifer, seeing for the first time not as enemies but as the people who had cared for her grandchildren when she couldn't. "Would you let me?" she asked hesitantly. "Eleanor," Michael said seriously, "these children need their grandmother. They always have. If you want to be part of their lives again, you'll be welcome. Even after everything I said. Especially after everything you said," Jennifer answered, "because it showed how much you love these children. And anyone who loves these children is family to us." At that moment, Margaret appeared at the door with a tea tray, having clearly waited some time for the voices to calm down. "I thought you all might want something warm," she said diplomatically. "Margaret," Michael introduced her. "This is Eleanor, Patricia's mother." "It's a pleasure to finally meet you," Margaret said warmly. "Rebecca spoke so much about you. The children have your eyes." Eleanor smiled through her tears, touched by the unexpected kindness from a woman who had no reason to be kind to her after what she had just witnessed. "They have my daughter's eyes," she gently corrected. "That too," Margaret agreed with a smile. The rest of the afternoon passed in an atmosphere completely different from what anyone could have imagined that morning. Eleanor stayed for dinner, listening to the children talk about their days at school, their favorite games, and yes, their favorite memories of their mother. "Did you know Mommy used to sing us to sleep?" Jacob asked his grandmother. "Of course I knew," Eleanor smiled. "I taught her those songs when she was little, like you." "Can you teach us?" Noah asked excitedly. "I would love to," Eleanor replied, looking at Jennifer. "Perhaps we could build a repertoire together." It was an offer of partnership, an olive branch extended. Jennifer accepted it with gratitude. "That would be wonderful," she said. "The children love music." When it was time to leave, Eleanor hesitated at the door. May I come back tomorrow?" she asked timidly. "It doesn't have to be for dinner. I just would like to spend more time with them." "You can come back whenever you want," Michael assured her. "In fact, there's a guest room here if you'd like to stay a few days, get to know their routine better." Eleanor looked at him in surprise. "You would do that? After everything?" "Eleanor," Michael said firmly, "you are these children's grandmother. This house is your home too." More tears began to stream down Eleanor's face, but they were tears of relief and gratitude this time. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for letting me come back." That night, after the children went to sleep, the three adults sat in the kitchen to talk about the future. "I need to apologize," Eleanor said immediately. "The things I said about you, Jennifer, they weren't fair." "You were protecting your daughter's memory," Jennifer replied. "I understand. If I were a mother, I'd probably do the same." "You're going to be a wonderful mother," Eleanor said softly. "I can see how much those children love you and how much you love them." "We'd like you to be part of it," Michael added. "The children need to know Rebecca's family, hear the stories, understand where they come from. And I need to learn to live with this loss without hiding from it," Eleanor admitted. "Seeing these children happy, seeing that life goes on, it's frightening, but it's also healing." "Perhaps we can heal together," Jennifer suggested. Eleanor nodded, feeling for the first time in 2 years that there was hope for the future. The months that followed were about adjustments and growth for the entire expanded family. Eleanor decided to move back to the United States, finding an apartment a few blocks away so she could be a constant presence in her grandchildren's lives without interfering with the household dynamics. She became the official storyteller about Rebecca, sharing precious memories the children would never have known otherwise. She talked about what Rebecca was like as a child, her mischief, her dreams, her fears. These stories gave the children a fuller picture of who their mother had been as a person, not just as a mother. Jennifer and Eleanor developed a relationship of mutual respect that gradually turned into genuine affection. They discovered they had much in common, including a fierce love for the same 3 children and a determination to honor Rebecca's memory in the best way possible. Michael watched these changes with admiration and gratitude. Watching his family grow and heal, seeing his children gain not just a maternal figure in Jennifer, but also regain their grandmother, was more than he had ever dared to hope for. But there was still one pending matter that needed to be addressed: the relationship between him and Jennifer. They had confessed their love for each other, but with all the commotion of Eleanor's arrival and the subsequent adjustments, they hadn't had time to talk about what it meant for the future. They acted like a couple in many ways, but they still hadn't made anything official. It was on a Saturday night, almost 6 months after Eleanor's arrival, that Michael decided it was time to have that conversation. The children were asleep. Margaret had gone to visit family and Eleanor was at home watching a movie. "Jennifer," he said, finding her on the back porch, looking at the stars. "We need to talk." She turned to him, and he could see a flicker of apprehension in her eyes. "About what?" "About us," he said, sitting beside her on the porch swing. "About what we want for the future." Jennifer was silent for a moment, clearly organizing her thoughts. "I don't want to pressure you," she finally said. "I know your situation is complicated. You have the children, your career, now Eleanor back in your life." "Jennifer," Michael gently interrupted her, "do you think I see you as a complication?" "I don't know," she admitted. "Sometimes I feel like I'm asking for too much, like I'm trying to fit into a life that wasn't made for me." Michael took her hand, intertwining their fingers. "This life was remade with you," he said firmly. "It wouldn't exist without you. I wouldn't exist without you, at least not in the way I am today." "But what about Rebecca?" "Rebecca will always be a part of our lives," Michael said. "She is the mother of my children. She taught me to love deeply. She gave me the greatest joys of my life. But she's gone, Jennifer. And as painful as it is to admit, life goes on." Jennifer looked at him, tears shining in her eyes. "Are you sure? Sure that you're not just clinging to me because I was here when you needed someone?" "I'm sure I fell in love with you, not because you were here," Michael said, touching her face gently, "but because of who you are when you are here." Because of the way you love my children without trying to replace their mother. Because of the way you brought joy back into this house. Because of the way you make me want to be a better man, a better father. I love you, she whispered. And I love you, he replied. So, what are we going to do about it? Jennifer smiled, finally allowing the hope she had suppressed for so long to blossom. What do you want to do? I want to marry you, Michael said without hesitation. I want you to be my wife, the official stepmother to my children, the woman I grow old with. I want to build a life with you that honors our past but focuses on our future. And the children? The children want it as much as I do, Michael laughed. In fact, Ethan asked me yesterday why I hadn't bought you a ring yet. He did not, Jennifer laughed too. He did. He said that Noah and Jacob were starting to worry you might change your mind if I took too long. They laughed together, the tension dissolving into the joy of the moment. So, Michael said, standing up and kneeling in front of her, Jennifer Parker, will you marry me? Will you become an official part of this crazy, wonderful, and sometimes chaotic family? Yes, she said without hesitation. Yes, I will. He kissed her then, a kiss full of promises and possibilities. From inside the house, they could hear little footsteps running and excited whispers. Clearly, 3 little spies had witnessed the proposal. I think our audience approved, Michael murmured against her lips. I think so, Jennifer agreed, smiling. The balcony door opened and 3 small pajama-clad figures came running, followed by a smiling Eleanor in her bathrobe. Did she say yes? Ethan asked eagerly. She said yes, Michael confirmed, pulling the children into a group hug. Can we call her Mom now? Asked Noah hopefully. Jennifer looked at the 3 hopeful little faces, feeling her heart expand beyond what she thought possible. If you'd like, she said softly. But remember, you'll always have 2 mothers. One in your heart, she touched each boy's chest, and one here with you. Mommy would be happy, Jacob said with conviction. She always said she wanted us to be happy. She would be very happy, Eleanor confirmed, tears of joy streaming down her face. Very proud too. That night they stayed up late, planning the wedding. It would be something simple, they said, just close family. But in the end, even just close family had become a considerable group. The wedding took place 3 months later, in the garden of the house where it had all begun. It was a sunny spring day, with flowers blooming everywhere and the sound of laughter filling the air. The children were the ring bearers, dressed in matching little suits that made them look even more adorable. Eleanor was Jennifer's matron of honor, a choice that surprised many but made perfect sense to those who knew the story. Margaret had insisted on organizing the reception, working for weeks to ensure everything was perfect. She had become much more than a housekeeper. She was truly part of the family. The most moving moment came when Michael and Jennifer exchanged their vows. They had written their own promises, and when it was Jennifer's turn, she addressed not only Michael, but also the children. Michael, she said, her voice clear and full of love, I promise to love you and support you in all the days to come. I promise to be your partner in life, in parenthood, and in love. Then she knelt to be at the children's eye level. Ethan, Noah, Jacob, she said, I promise to love you as my own children. I promise to honor the memory of your birth mother and help you remember her every day. I promise to be here for you when you're happy, when you're sad, when you're scared, or when you're excited. I promise to be the mother you deserve, without ever trying to replace the mother you lost. There wasn't a dry eye in the audience. The children themselves were crying, but they were tears of pure joy. We promise too, Ethan said suddenly, surprising everyone. We promise to love you as our new mum and to be good sons to you. And we promise to remember our first mum, but make room in our hearts for you too, Noah added. And we promise to always tell you if anyone is mean to you because now you're our real family, Jacob finished, making everyone laugh through their tears. The ceremony was followed by an intimate reception in the garden. There was music, dancing, and plenty of delicious food prepared by Margaret, using recipes that had belonged to Rebecca's mother. When it was time for the groom's speech, Michael surprised everyone by asking Ethan to join him. My oldest son has something he wants to say, Michael announced. Ethan, only 4 years old but with the seriousness of someone much older, climbed onto a chair so everyone could see him. "Thank you all for coming to my dad's wedding with our new mum," he said, making everyone smile. "For a long time our family was sad because our first mum had to leave, but now we have a second mum and our family is happy again." He paused, clearly organizing his thoughts. "My first mother always said that family is about loving people and taking care of them. Jennifer loves us and takes care of us, so she is our family. And now everyone here is our family too, because you all love us too." The simplicity and wisdom of a 4-year-old's words touched everyone present. There was no more perfect definition of love and family. The party continued late into the night. There was dancing, games for the children, and many stories shared about Rebecca, about the past, and about dreams for the future. Eleanor found herself chatting with some neighbors about the grandchildren, beaming with pride. Margaret was in her element, making sure everyone was well fed and happy. And at the center of it all, Michael and Jennifer danced with the 3 children, a family finally complete. When the guests had left and the children were put to bed, Michael and Jennifer found themselves alone in the kitchen, cleaning up the last remnants of the party. "How do you feel, Mrs. Thompson?" asked Michael, pulling her into his arms. "Complete," she answered without hesitation. "For the first time in my life, I feel completely where I'm supposed to be. Even with all the chaos, the drama, the 3 little hurricanes who are now officially your children." "Especially because of all that," Jennifer laughed. "This isn't the life I imagined for myself, but it's better than anything I could have dreamed of." "And where do we go from here?" "Where every family goes," she said, smiling. "One day at a time, together." They stayed like that for a few moments, embracing in the kitchen of the house that had become a true home for all of them. From upstairs, they could hear the soft sound of the children's breathing as they slept. From the guest room, they could hear Eleanor moving about, probably looking at the wedding photos on her phone for the 1,000th time. It was a perfect night in a life that had, against all odds, become perfect in its own unique way. 2 years after the wedding, the Thompson household had settled into a comfortable but never monotonous routine. The triplets, now 6 years old, had become confident and loving children who didn't hesitate to call Jennifer Mom and Michael Dad with equal affection. The memory of Rebecca lived on in the house through photographs, stories, and maintained traditions. Her room had been transformed into a space for family memories where the children could go when they missed their birth mother or when they wanted to share something special with her. Eleanor had become an integral part of the family, not just as a grandmother, but as a confidant and support for Michael and Jennifer. She had found renewed purpose in helping to raise her grandchildren and in keeping her daughter's memory alive in a healthy and loving way. Margaret had become something between a housekeeper, an aunt, and a best friend. Her loyalty to the family was unwavering, and her love for the children was evident in every small gesture of care. On a typical Saturday morning, Jennifer was making pancakes in the kitchen when she felt small arms wrapping around her waist. "Good morning, Mom," said Ethan, his hair still messy from sleep. "Good morning, sweetheart," she replied, kissing the top of his head. "Did you sleep well?" "I dreamed about you and my first mother," he said naturally. "You were making pancakes together and laughing a lot." Jennifer felt her eyes fill with tears. Even after all these years, the moments when the children expressed their feelings about having 2 mothers still touched her deeply. "What a beautiful dream," she said softly. "I bet she would be happy to know you dreamed about the 2 of us together." "I think so," Ethan agreed, hugging her tighter. "Do you think she knows me now?" "How I am now, not how I was when she went away?" The question revealed the depth of thought of a 6-year-old child struggling to understand complex concepts of loss and continuity. "I think so," Jennifer answered honestly. "I think mothers always know their children, no matter where they are." Noah and Jacob appeared in the kitchen at that moment, drawn by the smell of pancakes and the sound of conversation. "Talking about the first mother?" asked Noah, climbing onto a stool to help. "Ethan had a beautiful dream," Jennifer explained. "I also have dreams with her sometimes," Jacob admitted. "She's always smiling in my dreams." "And she always says she's proud of us," Noah added. Michael entered the kitchen at that moment, drawn by the voices and the delicious smell. "What are you all talking about?" he asked, kissing Jennifer and ruffling the children's hair. "About the first mother," Ethan explained, "and how she's probably happy because we have you and the second mother to take care of us now." Michael and Jennifer exchanged a look. Even after all these years, they were still amazed by the children's wisdom and resilience. "You know you're very special, right?" Michael said, pulling all three into a hug. "Not every child is lucky enough to have so much love in their lives." "We know," Jacob said serenely. "Aunt Eleanor always says that we are blessed. And Aunt Margaret says we're the luckiest boys in the United States," Noah added. "And do you agree?" Jennifer asked, curious about their perspective. "We agree," the three said in unison, making their parents laugh. Breakfast was followed by a typical family day. There were games in the garden, help with small household chores, and an art project that ended up being messier than artistic. Eleanor stopped by for lunch, as she did almost every weekend, bringing stories from her book club friends and always some small gift for her grandchildren. In the afternoon, while the children napped, a habit Jennifer had managed to maintain even at 6 years old for the sake of her own sanity, she and Michael met on the porch, enjoying a rare moment of silence. "What are you thinking about?" Michael asked, noticing his wife's contemplative look. "How life can change completely when we least expect it," Jennifer replied. 3 years ago, I was just a cleaner looking for work. Now you're a mother, a wife, the center of a family," Michael completed. "How do you feel about this transformation?" "Grateful," she said simply. "Every day waking up and remembering that this is real, that these people love me and need me. It's a gift I will never stop valuing." "And you never regret it? Never think about what your life could have been if you hadn't accepted the job here?" Jennifer considered the question seriously. "Sometimes I wonder about the paths I didn't take," she admitted, "but I can't imagine any of them being better than this one. Those 3 boys gave me a purpose I didn't even know I was looking for. And you—" She stopped, searching for the right words. "You taught me that it's possible to love someone completely without trying to change them," she continued, "that it's possible to build something new without destroying what came before." Michael took her hand, intertwining their fingers, as had become his habit. "You saved this family," he said softly. "You saved these children. You saved me. I don't know where we'd be without you." "You probably would have found another path," Jennifer replied. "People are more resilient than they think." "Perhaps," Michael agreed, "but it wouldn't have been this path. And I couldn't imagine a better path." They stayed silent for a few minutes, watching the clouds move across the sky and listening to the distant sounds of the neighborhood. "Michael," Jennifer said eventually, "can I tell you something?" "Always." "Sometimes I'm still afraid this is temporary," she admitted, "as if it's a dream I'll wake up from, or as if someone will appear and say I don't deserve all this." Michael turned to look at her completely. "Jennifer, look at me." She met his gaze, vulnerability clear in her eyes. "This is real," he said firmly. "Our love is real. The children's love for you is real. You deserve every moment of happiness you have, and you'll deserve all the moments still to come." "How can you be so sure?" "Because I see how you are with them. I see how you never, not for a second, try to be anything other than who you are. I see how you love without conditions, how you protect without possessing, how you nurture without smothering." He paused, touching her face gently. "And because I see the effect you have on everyone around you. Eleanor, who came here ready for war, now loves you like a daughter. Margaret, who was afraid of being replaced, now considers you her best friend. And these children—" His voice broke slightly. "These children have blossomed in a way I didn't think was possible anymore. They're happy, secure, confident. They know they're loved, and that's because of you." Jennifer felt tears streaming down her face, but they were tears of joy and relief. "Thank you," she whispered, "for reminding me, for choosing me, for letting me be part of all this." "Thank you," Michael replied, kissing her gently, "for choosing us too." The sound of little feet running through the house interrupted the intimate moment. The children had woken from their nap and were looking for their parents. "Mom, Dad, where are you?" shouted Ethan. "We're out here on the porch," Jennifer answered, quickly drying her tears. The three boys came running out, still with pillow marks on their faces and messy hair. "Can we go to the park?" asked Noah hopefully. "Please?" Jacob added, making puppy dog eyes. "Of course," Michael laughed. "Let's get ready and we can go." As the children ran back inside to put on their shoes, Jennifer and Michael exchanged one last intimate look. "Ready for another adventure with our crew?" asked Michael. "Always," Jennifer smiled. "Wherever they go, I'll go. Even if it's to a park full of other noisy children on a sunny Saturday." "Especially then," she laughed. "Some of the best memories are made in the most chaotic places." And so they went, a family of 5 that had formed in unexpected ways, but was now bound by ties stronger than blood. As they walked to the park, the children running ahead and coming back to hold their parents' hands, casual observers would have no way of knowing the complex journey that had brought them there. All they would see was a happy family enjoying a sunny Saturday together. And in the end, that was exactly the most important truth of all. At the park, while the children played and Michael pushed Jacob on the swing, Jennifer sat on a bench, watching everything. An older woman sat down next to her. "Beautiful children," the stranger commented. "Thank you," Jennifer smiled. "They're lucky to have such a caring mother." "I'm the lucky one to have them," Jennifer answered honestly. The woman looked at her curiously. "They're not biologically yours, are they?" The question could have been offensive, but it was asked with genuine curiosity, without judgment. "No," Jennifer admitted, "but they're mine in every other way possible." "How beautiful," the woman said with a warm smile. "Family isn't about genes, it's about love." "Exactly," Jennifer agreed. Later that evening, after the children were put to bed and the house was finally quiet, Jennifer found herself in the kitchen preparing the lunchboxes for Monday. It was a simple task that had become one of her favorite moments of the week, a time to reflect on the days that had passed and prepare for those yet to come. Michael found her there, as he often did. "Need any help?" he offered. "Always," she smiled, handing him one of the lunchboxes. They worked in comfortable silence for a few minutes before Michael spoke again. "You know, I never imagined it would be possible to be this happy again," he said quietly. "I know," Jennifer replied. "Neither did I." "Sometimes I feel guilty for being so happy," he admitted, "as if I'm betraying Rebecca's memory." "Do you think she would be happy seeing you so sad forever?" "No," Michael answered immediately. "She would kill me if she knew I was wasting a chance to be happy." "Then stop feeling guilty," Jennifer said simply. "Honor her memory by being the man and father she would be proud to see." "And you? Do you ever feel like an intruder in this life that wasn't originally yours?" Jennifer considered the question carefully. "In the beginning, yes," she admitted. "But now, I understand that I'm not intruding on a life. I'm helping to build a new life. A life that is ours and no one else's." "Ours," Michael repeated, liking the sound of the word. "Ours," Jennifer confirmed, smiling. End of story. And so ends this story of love, loss, healing, and family. A story that reminds us that sometimes the happiest endings come after the most difficult beginnings, and that true love can show up in unexpected ways and transform lives in ways we could never imagine. Now tell me, what did you think of this story? Do you believe Jennifer made the right decision by opening her heart to this family? Have you lived through or know someone who has gone through a similar situation? Leave your opinion in the comments with sincere words. We love reading what our listeners think. And if this story touched your heart, don't forget to leave your like and especially subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other moving stories we have prepared especially for you.